Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Tim. My name is Tim Hague Sr. I'm a speaker, author. I have Parkinson's disease, and I'm a PD Avenger. Welcome to Coffee with Tim, conversations on life and Parkinson's. If you're joining us via Facebook, welcome. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you're liking what you're hearing and enjoying things. If you're not enjoying it, don't write me an emails and tell me. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button below and subscribe to the channel for us. And that does us all kinds of good. But good morning. And if you're chatting, make sure you send us a chat note. Send me a note in the chat section and say good morning. Well, I'm really excited about this morning. I'm always happy to be doing Coffee with Tim. It gives me a chance to natter and say some things that have been on my mind and whatnot, but more importantly, it gives us a chance to just get away from life for a little while, sometimes relax, and like this morning, share some stories. I'm going to have a guest on here with me here shortly, and share a story that I think often in Parkinson's circles, maybe not often, but sometimes gets overlooked. The more difficult stories of our diagnoses. Folks who don't run the amazing race, folks who don't have the chance to be on American Ninja Warrior, folks who don't cycle across a continent, people who don't win, big prizes and do big things because were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but they nonetheless have a rough diagnosis, and they're out there living and surviving and thriving on their own, or within their own community, and that we don't often hear about them on the larger world stage. So enough that we're stepping out onto the larger world stage this morning, but we are stepping out onto the Tim stage. So I'm going to, in a few minutes, invite Jenn to join us, and she'll tell us a little bit of her story. But good morning, Chuck. Good to see you. Glad to see you tuning in. I'm not getting any chats, and I normally get chats by now. So if you're out there, give me a shout. I want to plug for you this morning U-Turn Parkinson's. So you often see that over my shoulder. The U-Turn Parkinson's is our wellness center here in Winnipeg that I started in 2016. And it's all about empowering people with Parkinson's in their pursuit of wellness. We look at wellness from 6 different vantage points: physical, occupational, intellectual, spiritual, social, and emotional, and attempt to provide the services and resources, the professional skills that people need to live their best with Parkinson's disease. We're looking at our 5th anniversary this April in Manitoba, and we are very excited to be planning a significant celebration for that. So if you're in Manitoba, especially keep an eye out for that as it comes. There'll be some information coming out in the February newsletter. And we've got some fun things planned for this year. I cannot believe that it has been 5 years. I just cannot believe that it's been 5 years. All right, well, there you go. My chat stream all of a sudden lit up. Janice Horn, good morning. Chuck, good morning again. You're on time, Chuck. Yeah, you made it. Tom, welcome. Saying you're a new follower. Welcome here. Pleasure to have you. Donna Marie, good to see you, lady. How are you? How's nursing treating you? Hopefully well. I'm glad we're not still flying up north together. If you still are, great, but I'm glad I'm not. I would not be managing that. When can we get back in the gym, Chuck? Oh, dear God, let it be soon. I hope it is soon. I am so anxious to go back to the gym. I can't tell you. I found a reasonable workout routine at home, but it's so easy to get off it at home, and I'm looking forward to being back with everybody. But anyway, I'm going to invite my friend Jenn to join us, and let's have a chat with Jenn. Good morning, Jenn.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to Coffee with Tim. And there's my friend Sydney. She just that was you the other day, Sydney. I was out in Las Vegas this last week speaking, Jenn. Virtually, and somebody asked me where my hat was because I didn't have my hat on for that event, and it was Sydney, of course, and she's here almost every week. Well, how did we get to know each other? When did we first meet, Jenn?
Through U-Turn Parkinson's boxing.
That's what I thought, and I deliberately did that to give us a plug. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in U-turn Parkinson's boxing, and that would
Yeah,
have been what, 3 years ago,
it must
4
have
years,
been. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Excellent. So now tell me about well, I know a lot about you, but tell my audience about yourself. Who are you? Where do you live?
I live in between Rosenart and Morris,
That's in
and
Manitoba, folks.
yeah,
We're in Manitoba.
yeah, Manitoba, and so I own a farmhouse with acreage, and
Okay.
I'm married for 25 years. This May, and I have 4 children,
Okay. How
and
old are the kids?
okay, about 21 and 18, almost 17, and 14.
Okay. So the youngest is 14, oldest 21. All right, well,
Yeah,
yeah, and that's about the span that you're behind me because we've been married 35 years and we've got 31. He just turned 31 yesterday.
yeah,
31, 26, and 22.
yeah,
And there's twins in there. That's why I only said 3 ages, folks.
yeah.
So your husband is Dave.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, you've been married 25 years. And tell me about your education, your professional career.
Well, I have a degree in theater, which is what I got when I was right out of high school, and it was from U of W. And then I studied a lot in psychology, but then I went to be a stay-at-home mother for 10 years, and I loved it. It
Awesome.
was great.
Awesome.
That's when I ran marathons,
Okay.
and
How many marathons have you run?
6.
6. Okay.
It's
Well,
full marathons, and then I've run shorter races too.
well, you're way out ahead of me. I did one full marathon. I never could get into training for marathons. It was just too much for me.
Oh,
I,
it's a lot of work. 18 weeks of training, but
yeah.
it was so fun. I used to go in the morning really early before my children woke up.
Yeah.
So I'd start in the dark and see lots of shooting stars.
Oh yeah. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I did lots of training for half marathons. I did probably at least 15 halves. I lost track somewhere along the way, but the full marathon was tough on me. So how old are you now, Jen?
46. I'll be 47 in June.
46. So you are as old now as I was when I was first diagnosed with Parkinson's. I was diagnosed at 46. So tell me about your diagnosis. You were diagnosed at,
I was 43.
you're
Or
43.
42, pardon me.
Okay, so you're about 4 years into the disease now.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your diagnosis.
Well, I was having a lot of weird things happen to me. It just started like I was. It started in 2013. I was at work. I was an early childhood educator.
Okay.
Well, I was a childcare assistant at that time. And I was playing with the children outside. And then I came back in, took off my ski pants because it was winter time, and I had wet my pants. And so I thought, well, that's weird. I don't do that normally. Cam was only 10 years old at the time. And people
That's your
were saying,
youngest?
yeah, people were saying you this is because you had 4 children that this is happening. But
The argument was that you become incontinent because you have 4 children.
yeah, I said, but the youngest is 10 and this has not happened before.
Yeah.
So, and I ran a marathon in 2013 on Father's Day. And then this was more like near the end of the year. So, and that kept happening. So I had to start wearing protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then other things started to happen. Like I had depression pretty severely, and my vision was getting blurry. And then I had trouble walking beside my husband in, say, the grocery store. I would walk into his path,
Mm-hmm.
and he would say, "What are you doing?"
So the first symptom that you noticed was incontinence.
Yeah,
Then blurry vision came along, you said?
yeah,
And trouble walking a straight line, if you will.
yeah.
And what was the other one?
Well, it just kept happening. Eventually I had twitching in my fingers.
Okay, but the tremor wasn't the first thing you noticed.
No,
Now, that's interesting because those are the things that we always hear first, right? People always hear the stiffness, the tremor, the loss
no,
of
and I had a
balance,
lot of gut issues too.
a lot of gut issues that you weren't able to eat, or were you not keeping things down, or
No, I could eat. I was constipated,
oh,
and they had diagnosed with IBS.
okay, and they've come to say that this is all related to Parkinson's.
Yeah, they have now, but it was a process of elimination, so it took a long time to diagnose. Because
How long?
I went, oh gosh, I started pursuing what was going on in 2014, and I wasn't diagnosed until June 30th, 2017.
Wow, so 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And what medication are you on?
Oh, so many. But I use levodopa.
Okay, so you're on levodopa, but lots of other meds as well. Have
Yeah.
you had DBS? Have you had any surgery?
No, but I'm on the list.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, if I have to get through the hurdles of the pre-operational loops, so I don't know if I'll be successful with that. I
Hmm.
hope so.
Hmm. Okay, so tell me, I know that at one time you were diagnosed MSA.
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed MSA or Parkinson's because my second neurologist, who works at the Movement Disorders Clinic, he said that this is happening too fast
Hmm.
and Parkinson's is slow. So he thought this could be MSA, which is multiple system atrophy. It's a fatal disease. So I was terrified
Yeah. And have
because
they
I
ever
had,
given you a clear answer as to whether or not it is MSA?
well, I said to my neurologist, um, I need to know, and because I can't go anywhere, I can't get travel insurance, anything like that. Not that I can do that now, anyways. But um, yeah, so
So they've left you unsure at this point, eh? You don't know
well,
if it's MSA or not?
he said it is not likely because I respond to the levodopa.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
That's really good to hear because MSA is not a diagnosis that anyone wants to have or
no,
wants to have hanging over them. It's a really tough to diagnosis to have
yeah,
to.
that was a hard time for us because David and I would sit down together and we would just start a conversation, and it would always end up with, "Do you think it's MSA?"
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about how things are now.
Um, things are hard. Every day is exhausting. I literally fall into bed just whooped.
Yeah, because do you work?
No, I can't work anymore.
Okay.
I was a early childhood educator, like I said, and I had just gone to school to become an early childhood educator from a child care assistant. It was a 2-year program, and I won the gold medal,
Hmm.
and I won
Congratulations.
those awards. Thank you. And um, I had to go on disability.
Okay. So you've been on disability now for a few years?
Yeah, since I've seen it last night, since November 22nd, 2018.
Okay. Okay.
And before I went on disability, remember I phoned you because
Yeah.
I need to know how to approach this.
Yeah. I remember that conversation. So remind
Yeah,
me again how old you are?
46.
46. So would you look at this as an old man's disease?
No, I
Because you
see
seem to
it.
be a pretty young woman to me.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I remember talking to my husband and saying, I'm going to love being in my 40s. I'm not afraid of it. I'm going to
Yeah.
make the 40s look good. But it didn't work out that way.
So what's the biggest struggle right now for you? Like I see you got a fair bit of dyskinesia.
Yeah, especially when I'm nervous.
Yeah, and if I was a better host, I'd get you to relax somehow. But I'm learning my hosting skills, so you're one of my first. So
Well,
sorry.
I will relax.
What are you? What's your mobility like?
Oh, it's getting more limited, and that's hard for me
Okay, what's
because,
limited mean?
well, I have to walk with a walker
Okay,
because I have a falling risk.
okay. Have you fallen much?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
My balance is off.
What's the worst fall you've had?
Um, the worst fall I've had was I broke my hip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was I think March 30th of last year. So that actually I shattered the hip.
And how did that happen? Do you mind me asking?
I was making toast for my husband, and I was in between the counter and the fridge. I was leaning. I think I was feeling good and forgetting that I had Parkinson's. Like, there was some times I had denial,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I reached for the jam, and then I get cut one down, and it landed right on my hip.
Wow. So here we are. You're in the kitchen making toast for your hubby.
Yeah.
And going about your life, and you end up on the ground with a shattered hip.
Yeah, and 16 days in the hospital.
And you would have been 48 at the time.
No, I'm not 48 yet.
Oh, 46, 45.
Yeah.
But yeah, my math skills are tremendous, aren't they? So you got through that, and now you're dependent on a walker. And do
Yeah.
you, when you go out, are you able to use the walker when you go out, or do you have to use a wheelchair? Do you need any other supports?
I use the wheelchair a lot of times. Like if we go shopping, I use the wheelchair because you don't know how long my legs are gonna work.
Okay.
And my legs inconsistently work. So if I eat protein too close to my medication, it messes up the communication.
Yeah. Yeah, it competes for the uptake of the dopamine, and
Yeah.
dopamine loses.
And fatigue will play a big part in it. So if I'm fatigued, I can't access my legs.
Okay.
I do sometimes walk holding on to somebody if I'm feeling strong enough. So my husband will go for a very short walk.
So
I
tell
miss
me,
hiking.
yeah, what was that? Sorry.
I used to go hiking and running, and I miss all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your husband and your kids. How are they dealing with your diagnosis?
Every one of my children is dealing with it differently.
Yeah.
My oldest, well, the two older ones are girls, and they don't live with me anymore because they're grown.
Yeah.
But the oldest one is very helpful. She tries to educate herself and is helpful to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's learning about DBS and whatnot, and she tries to be a support to me. And then my second daughter is very soothing, and she hangs out with me. Well, she's in BC now, but when she was here, we did stuff together. she will let me forget that I have Parkinson's. And I have a son that has a really hard time with it, who gets angry at me because he says he knows they didn't have any control over it, but he's still angry. And then my youngest one is very loving and funny. He uses humor to deal with it.
And how's Dave doing?
David is amazing.
Yeah.
We used to argue a lot before I had Parkinson's. We were all ego, but we get along so much better now.
Well,
And
that's
he's been
cool.
a great sport. Yeah, he's been wonderful.
That's fantastic. That's a tough story to hear, Jen.
Yeah.
Is there? Well, what would you? I'm going to ask you this question. If you could go back to the beginning of your diagnosis, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself back then?
Appreciate what you have.
Hmm.
Appreciate it like so sweetly because it's gonna go fast.
It just
And
never.
I would tell myself that you're worth something because there's a lot of times when I was at home that I would feel that I wasn't worth anything.
Yeah. So is there any piece of advice that you would give someone newly diagnosed with Parkinson's now?
I would say form your army of support, exercise, eat healthy, and enjoy your life as best you can.
Form your army, enjoy life the best you can,
Yeah,
exercise, and eat healthy.
yeah.
That's awfully good advice.
We have a really wonderful army out here. Support some our community helps us. The church cooks dinner for us 2 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful.
It's fantastic. That is fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
Because it does take a village, as they say, or an army to get by some days. And it's very important that we take the time to build that group around us who can support us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you one other question.
Sure.
This was said to me one time that it was an older person that said, they were newly diagnosed, and they said that this PD is no big deal. They were in their 80s, quite a well-known television personality, wealthy, of course, and said, this PD is really no big deal. What would you say to that comment?
I would say everybody's PD is different, and it has transformed my life.
Yeah. Because it has changed everything for you, hey?
Everything. And sometimes when I dream, I don't dream disabled. I dream able-bodied. And I wake up in the morning and I remember. So I often will think about the things that I can't do. But there are so many things I can do. And so I say, what will my victories be today?
What are the things that you can still do that you're happy about?
Oh, well, I wrote a book. I like to write. And I wrote a book for children.
Okay.
To use my early childhood education studies.
Right.
So it's farm animals that I used to live with on the farm that um, teach social skills to young children.
Mm-hmm. And have you published this book?
Yeah, I'm working on that.
You're working on it. Okay. Well, you let me know when you've got it published, and we'll promote it out here. And
Oh, great.
we'll all come and buy some.
And it's going to be a series because there's
Okay.
lots of different animals. This one's about 2 ducks, Gladys and Bertha.
Okay. All right. Well, last question for you, Jen.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you get up and not just survive every day, but thrive? What gives you strength to
God gives me strength.
God gives you strength. Okay.
Yeah. I used to think that God gave me Parkinson's.
Hmm.
I used to say that because He wanted me to serve others. So when I ran the marathon, they gave me medals to people going through trial. I would always dedicate the marathon to an individual. And so I thought this is just a different kind of marathon. But people talked to me and said God doesn't give Parkinson's. And so I read it and I thought God's gonna scoop me up and hold me and help me through this random Parkinson's.
Hmm.
And we're gonna use it to serve others.
That's awesome, Jen. I agree with what our mutual friend Janice Horn said here earlier. She made a comment that you make 40s look amazing, and you're such a brave lady.
Thank
I
you.
completely agree with that statement. You are incredibly brave to come and publicly share a bit of your story with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I certainly appreciate it. And is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Any last statement?
I am so grateful for my life.
Hmm.
And just very excited about all the things that I have to look forward to.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you for your positive attitude. Thank you for your being brave to come share with us this morning. And yeah, we'll stay in touch, and maybe I'll have you back sometime, and you can update us on how you're doing.
Thank you.
And we'll, for sure, when the book is done, we'll have you back, and we'll talk about the book.
Great. I brought a baby locally from my community who is illustrating it. So we're both putting it together.
Okay, awesome. All right, you have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, folks, there's a hard story. Diagnosed at 43, 42, 43, but I'm already dropped the number. Young, 46 years old now, struggling with mobility issues significantly, struggling in general, and yet has such a positive attitude. Jen and folks like her are the folks who keep me super motivated to keep doing my best in my journey, because I look at my journey with Parkinson's and it's nothing like Jen's. It is so much easier. And so she is the kind of person that really keeps me motivated and inspired, and who keeps me focused on U-turn Parkinson's. That's my number one focus in life, is to build our wellness center here so that we can help people like Jen all over Manitoba live their best with this disease. And I so wish that we had more services available to her where she's at. And that's our goal, to grow to that kind of place where we can offer all people in Manitoba services to help them live well. And whatever that looks like, whether it's physical exercise and those types of things, or occupational kind of things, intellectual, helping our cognition and our mental capacity, our emotional capacity, our spiritual side, our social side, all of those things. And on the social side, I want to point out Janice Horn, our friend who we mentioned before, runs a fantastic art program. She has worked with us at U-Turn Parkinson's in offering that, and it's just a fabulous opportunity because Janice is so incredibly talented, and you will see some of her talent come to life with our announcement for U-Turn Parkinson's coming up in February. I can't spill the beans yet, but she's done some of the logo work for us and whatnot, and just extremely talented individual living with Parkinson's as well, who I had on the show a while back, you might recall, and we talked about her journey. Diane asked me, are you thinking about expanding to other provinces? Well, Diane, I have been asked many times to come to various places. And yes, there are lots of things I would like to do. I think there's opportunity to take what we do and do it in lots of other cities. But first, we've got to get past COVID. That's my big bane right now. We've got to get past COVID. We get past COVID, we'll get our feet back on the ground, and we will start going and growing, because I believe that what we have to offer is what people with Parkinson's need. I've never been one to be focused a lot on research, although that's incredibly important. It's so important that we end this disease. That's why I'm a part of PD Avengers and why I've thrown my hat to that ring as well. But I'm convinced that as a nurse, it is my calling to help us live with the disease. That before we can, if I'm expected to stay in the race and help end the disease, I need to be able to live well every day. I can't help us get there if today is not looked after for me personally. And so that's my goal with all people with Parkinson's. Get you the wellness resources and services that you need to live well today, so that you can help us go forward in research and all the other advocacy lanes that we have to defeat Parkinson's in the long term. So there we go. That's it for today. We've gone a little bit longer than normal, but I thought that Jenn's story deserved a bit more time. Thank you for all the kind words that you've shared with her. She is able to see those. Yeah, it's a good thing. I think this is a good thing to stop and share the other side of the stories, because we see so many good stories. We see so many things. But this, I feel like Jenn is an everyday normal story that doesn't get hit sometimes. It gets overlooked. And so I want to give opportunity to share these stories as well. So we'll be back with another guest sometime. But for this week, we'll call it a day. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, a heart, a hug on Facebook. So please subscribe if you're on YouTube. All those things help us to grow what we're doing here and reach more people living with and affected by Parkinson's. So until next week, have a fantastic weekend. Live your best, persevere, stay on your journey, and know that you can win your race as well. Until then, all my best. Bye-bye.